is a popping, everybody? It is your boy Corey Shea, and we are back again with a pretty interesting stream today. This has been something I wanted to do for a while. I definitely, this is definitely something I'm very excited to do. Today, we're gonna do what I would like to call a style dive. So basically, the goal of a style dive, I want to break down a particular art style that I'm very interested in. So, what do we have today? We have the artwork for one of my favorite artists in this whole wide world. My boy Kainonaut. That boy is godlike. Hold on. I'm gonna put when I post this to YouTube, I'm gonna put the link to his social media in the description, and I'll also post it. I'll post it in the video itself. He's a very good artist. Please support him. He deserves it. Today we're just gonna break down his art style, but I'm gonna do it in parts. So today, what we're gonna focus on the first part of this style dive. We're gonna focus on shape language. Shape language is a interesting concept that I didn't really think that much about until just recently. So, to start this style dive off, what exactly is shape language? Alright, I'm glad you asked, Johnny. Colors represent like different things. They make you feel a certain thing. They represent different moods. Shapes are kind of similar. So shape language is essentially the emotion that different shapes give you. How does different shapes make you feel and stuff like that? So usually in art, or usually just in real life in general, shapes like circle, for instance, shapes carry energy and emotions. So when we look at circles, for instance, like a circle, usually artworks they have a lot of circles and like a lot of curves. Circles kind of represent like softness, stuff like that. When we talk about squares, squares are more rigid. They're more rigid. They're more stable. Stuff like that. Like, let's say you have a drawing of a very buff guy. He would have a pretty square jaw. So that would be more like stable, more masculine, more grounded, essentially. And when we talk about a triangle, triangles are more like kind of like sharp, aggressive. Usually art styles or like character designs that have a lot of spikes to them. They're usually like very aggressive characters, very like I would say very powerful, very intimidating characters. How does all of this apply to art? Basically, when it comes to like character designs, how you basically implement these shapes and how you basically like balance these shapes out can determine what a good character design is and what a bad character design is. Let me know if I'm making sense. I am not the most articulate, but I'm actually doing this style dive so I can learn art as well because I'm still improving it myself. I'm not the best artist in the world, but I'm trying to get better. But yeah, what we're going to actually do today, we're actually going to go over some of Kaino's art, and I'll actually explain more in an actual example of what I mean by how these shapes kind of carry emotions. So, let's go over this very cool piece that Kaino did. This very cool piece of Giovanna from Guilty Gear Strive. So, it's very bright, very vibrant. So let's bring down the opacity. And I'll kind of break down like the shape language in the piece itself. Okay, so let's go over, let's see. Let's start with her face. So naturally, most faces, her face has a lot of like rounded shapes to it. It's very round. So a circle will make up the bulk of the shape. So Giovanna, she's a woman. She's a woman. So she has naturally a lot of like feminine characters, I would say. They have a lot of like curves, a lot of rounded shapes. Like I said, shapes like circles, rounded shapes like circles, they represent like softness. So a lot of feminine characters would have like a lot of like curves and circles and stuff like that in their character designs. So naturally, yes, her face has like a lot of curves to it. Now, where her chin is, there is a slight rounded triangle. It's slightly rounded triangle to kind of give off that, yeah, she's feminine, but she's tough too. And Giovanna in the game in Guilty Gear, she's a tough badass character. Even when we go inside her face, like even her nose is like it's very rounded. It's very rounded. Her eyes are very rounded too. Her eyebrows have like little triangle shapes too. And again, one thing I do want to emphasize with Kaino's artwork as well, he definitely balances all these things together. There's a lot of rounded shapes, but there's also a couple triangles in the piece too. But it's not overpowering. He balances everything very perfectly. So when we go to the hair, for instance, there's a lot of blocky shapes here. Like right here, the hair strands, they're very like kind of rectangularly. So you have like a rectangle here for this strand. You have like a rectangle here for this strand. You also have like kind of sharp shapes as well for like this strand of hair right here. Again, he balances it pretty well. Like it's a perfect balance of different shapes. So like I said, Giovanna, she's a woman. She's very feminine, I would say, but she's badass at the same time. So he balances having a lot of rounded shapes with a lot of like square shapes and a couple of sharp shapes too. Kind of makes it the perfect balance. Okay, Googled it. It's called Boba Keke effect. Oh, okay, Boba Keke. I'm gonna actually look that up real quick. The Boba Keke effect, also known as the oh man, the Takekte. I'm butchering the fuck out of this pronunciation. You guys can sound this out. I'll put this in the video. Boba Keke is a psychological concept where people tend to associate the nonsense word keke with spiky shapes and boba with rounded shapes. And that actually makes sense. That actually tracks because the letter K is very sharp. It looks very sharp. You have all these like sharp pointed letters so it gives kind of like a aggressive feel to it. And then you have like boba, which has like a lot of like the B, the O, the U, the A. It has a lot of like rounded shapes to it, so that kind of attributes to what I'm talking about as well. So we go to her collar right here. Her collar is kind of like a rectangle, kind of like a rounded rectangle as well. Kind of gives a stable vibe, but also still kind of like soft and flowy a little bit. And then when you get into her accessories, you have these buttons right here, which is on another circle. More circles. And, okay. So we can't really avoid this with this piece in particular. So there's a lot of curves going on. a lot of circles. But yeah, there's a lot of circles going on. So basically her whole torso is like just filled with curves. So it's just a very big like kind of circle. And then you have her cleavage. Those are two circles as well. So you just got a lot of like, a lot of curves in this illustration. So just off the rip, based off what I'm seeing of Giovanna, most of her character design is like curves, but there's also a lot of like squares and rectangles as well to give kind of like a balanced look, and a slight bit of rectangles to kind of give it a little bit of edge to it, which is the perfect combination for Giovanna herself. Like, she's very feminine. She's very rounded, so to say. She gives out kind of like a stable, like, I'm a stable, fierce fighter, but I'm feminine. I'm still feminine, feminine badass, but not too aggressive. That's kind of what I like about it. It's perfect. It's the perfect balance, and it perfectly encapsulates Giovanna as a character. So let's go to her dog next. So the dog, let's go with the ears. The ears, those are like kind of like a rounded rectangle. And in the piece, you do see a lot of like rounded triangle. Her ears, the ears on the dog is like a rounded triangle. Did I say rectangle before? I meant triangle. So there's a lot of like triangular shapes in the dog, which would make sense since the dog is doing. Oh, y'all can't even see it. Which would make sense since the dog is doing a lot of the fighting for her. Well, they fight in tandem, but you get what I mean. It's a dog. It's fierce. It's intimidating. Even his snout right here, there's kind of like a rounded triangle shape going on. Even like where his like brow and his eyes are kind of located, there's like this little rectangle shape right here. His whiskers, or like his fur at the end. There's just a lot. There's like a lot of sharp shapes going on. And naturally, as a dog, as a dog, you're gonna be fierce. You're gonna be fierce. You're gonna be aggressive. But I like how he kind of balances that. Damn, I can't talk today. I like how he balances it out. There's sharp shapes in here, but they're not like super duper sharp. Like the snout, for instance. You can kind of break that down to a triangle, but it's a rounded out triangle. His nose is also kind of like a rounded square as well. So it's kind of a perfect balance, I would say. Even like this little scar right here. That's like kind of like a lightning bolt symbol. It's kind of like a lightning bolt symbol. There's a lot going on, but it's perfect. It's perfect. Also, one other thing about shape language too that's very important is silhouettes. So silhouettes. Let's say I created a silhouette of Kaino's artwork right now. If I silhouette Kaino's artwork, he does shape language so good that even when you block it out, it's still dynamic, it's still readable. You can tell it just has that energy to it. It still just has energy to it. You can tell there's like sharp shapes. But you can also make out like the blocky strands of her hair. It's not doing too much. And sorry, I did not block this in correctly, but you get the idea. So good shape language versus bad shape language. So when you're using shape language, when let's say designing a character, you're supposed to have a balance of like different shapes. But you're supposed to balance it in a way that's not too overpowering in like one direction. It should be like at least a good balance of shapes. Now, depending on what type of character design you're trying to go for, it might lean towards like one shape of the other, but there has to be at least other shapes in there to kind of like round it out, I guess. There can't, like, for instance, where it says like don't right here. This character design right here, this cat right here, it's just mostly rounded shapes. And that's a no-go. It looks weird, it looks flat, it does not look good. Now you contrast that with this one over here, the actual good one. See how the face is like rounded, the ears are like pointed, the ears are like a triangle, the face is rounded, the nose is a triangle, the body is kind of like a rounded cylinder, I would say. I forgot what that shape is. The legs are kinda... I forgot that shape. Kind of like a rectangle. kind of like a combination of like a rectangle, a triangle, a rectangle, and a triangle. There's like different shapes that come together, but it's balanced in a way that it works. So we see over here this example of bad shape language. We see how everything's just straight circles. Just straight circles and rounded. The face is a circle, the ears are a circle, the body is a oval, even the legs are like ovals. There's not a good balance. It's leaning too much on rounded shapes. Now, if that's the character design you're trying to go with, cool. But there has to be at least something else in the piece to kind of like balance it out, so it doesn't look flat. So right now, I got my boys and gal, Jesse and James, right here. So Jesse and James actually have a very interesting character design. So we'll break it down real quick. So let's start with Jesse first. So Jesse and James, they are part of this evil organization called Team Rocket. If you ever watch Pokemon, you know the whole spiel. Their goal is to steal Pikachu or whatnot. They're comedy relief, but they're still bad guys. So when we look at Jesse's character design, right now, off the rip, we do see a lot of sharp shapes. So let's say her, right now, like her hair. Like her hair right here, it's definitely sharp. So right now, her hair is very sharp right here. It's a sharp edge right there. Like even like her face, it's very like kind of like sharp and blocky. Even down to like her hairline right here, it's like a lot of sharp shapes. And obviously she's feminine too. She does have a lot of like rounded shapes as well, but it's mostly like sharp shapes to kind of give off the I'm evil, femme fatale type of thing that she has going on. Like even her eyes right here, her eyes are like very like sharp to kind of give off that, like I said, femme fatale type of thing. But yeah. So even when we go to her hair right here, now her hair is a little bit rounded right here. It's like a crescent moon shape. But even then, it's still sharp. Like as a crescent moon would... Of course, in a crescent moon shape, it's rounded right here, but it gets sharp right there. So again, it's balancing that feminine, but also aggressive and evil type of thing. So that's why I really like Jesse's character design. If you ever watch the show, you can tell like she's very like snooty. She's very snooty, sarcastic, very devilish type of character. Now let's go down to the body. Now her limbs are very like kind of like cylinders, I would say. Her limbs are cylinders. Like even her torso is blocky, but also has a couple sharp shapes as well. And right here, of course, she's a woman, so she has like a little, a little curvature right here. It's kind of sell that, femme fatale. Right here now, her hips, there's a slight curve right here, but also a blocky shape where her skirt is. And of course, her limbs are kind of cylinders, kind of rectangle-ish shapes. Rectangle-ish. Is that even a word? Rectangle-ish? Also, her shoes, her boots are kind of like a rounded, pointy shape. So all in all, we have a lot of sharp shapes. A lot of her character design is actually kind of blocky shapes. Her most notable character design, her hair, is definitely a mix of rounded and sharp. So that's perfect too. inside her face, there's a lot of inside her face. Her face is mainly blocky, but it also has a lot of sharp shapes, as in her eyes and her eyebrows. So that's perfect as well. Jessie, she's a very like devilish type of character, kind of like a femme fatale. She has an edge to her, but she's also kind of goofy. In the traits like her hair, you get this like kind of curved shape, but also a sharp end at the end as well to give off that, yeah, she's a woman, she's feminine, but she'll get you. She's aggressive too. So that's Jessie. So let's get to James. So James is kind of interesting too, because he has a little bit less going on with his character design. When we go over James, a lot of the shapes that make up his character design are actually like kind of square adjacent, I would say. And that makes sense since he is a guy. As zesty as he is, there's a lot of square, rectangular shapes going on. His limbs are kind of like rectangular cylinders, I would say. Even though there's a lot of squares and rectangles, they're like kind of like rounded squares and rectangles. They're not overtly sharp. They're not overtly sharp like Jesse's character design, but they do give off that, yeah, I'm a bit masculine, but I'm also a little soft too. And that's actually what I like about James. This is a side note. I actually like James as a character, because he's like, yeah, he's part of this evil team, but he has a heart too. And I like that. So we go into like his limbs right here. There's like a rounded kind of cylinder. Like a rounded blocky cylinder. And then you get into his hair. His hair does have like these little kind of sharp triangle shapes on it, but it's not overdone. Like I said, James is yes, he's technically an evil character, but he's not overtly evil. I think that's what makes it a very good character design. He has a lot of like rigid and blocky shapes, but they're rounded out in a way that makes it like masculine, but still soft at the same time. The sharpest things about his character design is really just like the ends of his hair and his eyes. There's a bit of a rounded triangle at the tips of his hair right there. His eyes, they're slightly sharp. They're not as sharp as Jesse's, I would say. They're still sharp. But yeah, that's going over Jesse and James, their character design, as opposed to how shape language reflects them. This is this piece that he did of Gon and Killua. This shit is so godlike. Oh my god. So when we look at this Gon and Killua piece, there's a lot going on here. There's a lot going on. When I look at this piece, the first thing I think is just chaos. Chaos, fierce chaos, aggressive, fierce chaos. So when we go over like the shape language for, let's say Gon, for instance. Let's start with Gon. So Gon, just off the rip, there's a lot. Just off the rip, the one thing that stands out is his hair. So his hair has a lot of like spiky ends to it, which gives off that aggressiveness. It basically enhances the aggressiveness of the piece. So this is a big action shot. So you want to kind of sell off that Gon is powerful, he's fierce. So what's the best way to do that? A lot of triangles, a lot of spikes, a lot of aggressiveness. And then when we go into his face, there's a lot of like blocky, I would say blocky shapes as well. Like I said, Gon is a guy. So obviously he's gonna have slightly, even though he's a kid, he's still a guy. He has a lot of like masculine features. But since he's a kid, those masculine features are rounded out a little bit. So they're not like super duper sharp blocks. They're like rounded blocks. Even in his like face, where you see like his where his nose is rounded. Like his like fang right here is like kind of like rounded. Even in his face, which is like kind of like a rounded out square, there's still like rounded shapes inside that square. Like his eyes are round. His teeth are round. When it comes to his face, the kind of like the sharpest aspects of his face are like his eyebrows too. So that's another aspect of it that kind of brings out that fierceness. Then you have his ears. So that's another rounded shape. So we go to his torso, his body. So his body is kind of like a oval too. So we have these oval shapes as well. And then you have his fist right here. His fist is a square. There's a lot of square blocky shapes to it. When you actually go into his fingers, they're a little bit rounded, but they're still kind of... They kind of lean more towards the blocky type of vibe. Kind of like a rounded block. Or rounded blocks, I would say. And then you have like the energy that's emanating around his fist. They kind of give off like a sharp triangle shape as well. And then you get to his like limbs right here. They're kind of like cylinders, kind of like tubes. And I just love how he just stretches perspective. Oh my goodness. Then you have his shoes, which is kind of like a rounded shape. That's a bit of a cylinder too. Then kind of sort of rounded shape on his boots. His other limb right here, again, another cylinder. And then right here where his hands are, his hands actually surprisingly has a lot of sharp shapes too. See like the ends of his fingertips? They're like very sharp. There's a lot of pointed shapes and sharp shapes to it. So when I look at Gon, I'd say a majority of the shapes on Gon's body, there's a lot of ovals. There's a lot of ovals and cylinders going on, especially with him, his body in general. And then you have these bits where like his hair is like pointed. His hair has like pointed triangles. The energy on his fists are like very like pointed too, and then his fingers are pointed. I'd say that perfectly suits Gon in this piece, because it's like Gon is he's a little dude, he's a little guy. Gon can be soft, he can be very like innocent and sweet at times, but he can also be fierce at times too. The way Kainonaut like balances shapes perfectly and then stretches that perspective, chef's kiss, he does this really good. Adding spiked hair in a transformation or base character design can really enhance the anime fight feel. Exactly. I'm gonna actually put your comments in my video. Let me take a picture of your comment. Let's get to Killua. Killua is interesting. Killua's character design in this piece is actually very interesting. So, if you ever watch Hunter x Hunter, as you can probably tell in the piece, Killua, he's a lightning user. Killua is he comes from a family of assassins, so he's very cutthroat. He's not a normal kid, let's just say that. So when we look at Killua, there's a lot of sharp shapes. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, it's a lot of sharp shapes going on. There's a lot of sharp shapes, like his jaw is like shaped. His jaw is like, it's blocky, but it's also like a sharp edge on his chin. His hair, there's a lot of triangles and sharp shapes on his hair too. Which makes sense, because when he's in Godspeed mode, there's like a lot of sharp shapes. Even on his hands are there's a lot of like rounded shapes on his hands, but the electricity that emanates from it kind of gives off like a sharp vibe too. Even the way that that Kainonaut like really stretched the perspective and like distorted the shapes on Killua. there's so much going on. There's so much like sharpness to it. Like his sleeve right here is like very soft. Like even like his like the sleeve on his shirt over here, there's a sharp edge to it. His shoes, like his socks, they're very sharp. And then you have like his shoes, they're like a little bit of a rounded shape. It's just, oh my god, just the way that Kainonaut like really like, he really played with like shapes, perspective, anatomy. This is not conventional anatomy at all, but he made it work and it looks so interesting. I'm sorry, I'm a glaze Kainonaut throughout this whole video. He is a very, very good artist. He inspired me to like really lock in on art, so to say. So it's an honor to like really study his style. Even though Killua comes from a family of assassins, he's still a child. So, like, let's say, like, his knees, for example. His knees they have a rounded shape to them, too, but they still have kind of like a slightly rounded edge to them. That way it gives off that he's still a child, but he's still aggressive, too. Even when there's, like, rounded shapes, even when there's, like, rounded shapes in the piece, there's still, like a pointed edge to him. He still has an edge to him. I just love the way that he just plays with shapes. Oh my god. Even on the bangs and stuff. Like, even his eyes are like very sharp at the end. Like, oh my goodness. And so that's basically how you would like break down shape language and manipulate it. One of the best ways I can describe Kaino's art style, it's like controlled chaos. I love it so much. It's like he just has fun with it. He's not weighed down by the conventions of like just the art fundamentals. He definitely has a grasp of the art fundamentals, but he knows the rules so he can bend the rules, and I love that. Just for a warning and clarification for the folks in YouTube, please don't misunderstand that just because your art doesn't have the shape language of a more skilled artist, don't mean your art or art style is bad or worse by comparison. No such thing as bad artists, only an improving artist. Keep on the grind, take breaks, and we need it, but always keep moving forward. I'm gonna put that in the video too. Buru, you are a blessing. Thank you for improving the quality of my video again. To quickly recap what we learned today, we learned about shape language. Shape language is essentially the emotions that shapes inhabit or bring out, or make you feel. So if, for instance, like circles and rounded shapes, they give off like a softer vibe, a more feminine vibe, a more approachable vibe, I would say. Squares give off a more like stable, rigid, or masculine type of vibe, and triangles give off a more like aggressive, scary vibe or intimidating vibe. And yeah, that is the crux of shape language. I would definitely explore that more in my artwork, and let this video serve as a example of what to add in your artwork to make it better. That is the end of my first video. Tune in for our next video on studying Kainonaut's art style. Not sure what we'll be getting into. We'll be getting into like line art. You know what? Fuck it. We're gonna go into line art next time. Line art is what we're gonna get into next time. So yeah, our next aspect that we will follow on the style study will be the line art of Kainonaut. So yeah, if nobody's told you they love you today, remember that I do. Enjoy being blessed, carry no stress, and I will see you guys when I see you guys. Peace out.